Hello, and welcome to another episode of Focus on Hope. In our studios today, we have some very important guests. Kathy Wambacher of the Juvenile Probation Department and Paul Tighe. They are here to tell us about this new program. Paul?
Well, thank you. It's certainly a pleasure to be here. We want to talk a little bit about Kids at Hope. And so it really isn't a program, it's an ideology.
Okay.
And so it's a belief that all kids are capable of success with no exception. And so there's a little history behind that. There's a gentleman by the name of Rick Miller who has worked, is affiliated with ASU, and did research in his career, was very frustrated with the reference to kids as being at risk. And so through the university, they were doing research on the kids who overcame lots of what we would say are risk factors. So had the odds against them, many things that were very difficult, but study all the kids who were successful despite all these adversities. And so they compiled the things that these kids had in common, and then Kids at Hope is like a paradigm shift. Instead of looking at kids being at risk, look at them being at hope, and then ensure that those success factors, those ingredients are in place for all kids, and it greatly improves their opportunities for success. So that's really what it is a belief system that all kids are indeed capable of success and with no exceptions.
Oh.
So, one of the things that we often do if we talk to people, we'll say, well, how many of you believe that all kids are capable of success with no exceptions? And,
Okay.
most people that invite us to talk about it, are believers. So they all will say, yes, of course. And then you say, well, tell me about, the kids that, were not necessarily successful. And so then they start saying, well, yeah, we believe everybody's successful except for there was this kid and that kid. And so as soon as you start making exceptions, you're no longer saying no exceptions. And so that's something that's really important, is that, we don't make exceptions. And, if you want to change people's behaviors, you have to first start with their beliefs. So the first part of training in Kids at Hope really focuses on beliefs. And for an organization, for me, it's school districts. For Kathy, it's juvenile probations. We work with kids in different venues, but we still work with kids, and we can make a difference. But if our organizations, everybody in the organization, doesn't believe that all kids are capable of success with no exception, then we have a problem. So
Yes.
people who don't share that belief generally move on, go other places, and when we hire people, that's a key piece that we look for in candidates.
Yes.
And that's also true for juvenile probation. Actually, Paul has been involved with Kids at Hope for many years, probably since the inception.
Oh.
Where
The inception was when?
Back in the late 90s is
Oh.
when this gentleman I talked to, Rick Miller, was doing some of the research. So I was a principal down in the Dysart district, and I guess it was probably 2001. Rick came and made a presentation and shared, the ideology. I'm like, yeah, that's why I'm in education. It was, a lot of affirmation, and I, was like, yes, this needs to be part of what I'm about, or it is, and so I need to make it part of what my school is about. So I had a large school, a K-8 school with 1,100 kids. So I had a sizable staff, and I invited Rick to come share the ideology there as well. And it really did start in schools, and has extended, as you can see, to other organizations. We'll talk more too about what are we doing locally, but the training for my staff got people real excited, and so the people who were really excited said, well, all of you stick around, you'll be a committee. And so I thought I was leading the charge, but pretty soon I had to get out of the way because I had some really passionate teachers in particular, and that just became part of who my school was. That's how we were identified with, is believing in kids and having support systems in place to make sure all kids are successful, or at least have the opportunity for success. It's gained traction. So I've worked with Rick for a while now, probably 13 years, and last summer I had just started at Mingus, and I knew Rick was coming to a meeting in Sedona. I said, hey, Rick, while you're coming up through Cottonwood, would you mind stopping and just share the ideology a little bit and talk to some people. He said, I'd love to. So I said, great, I'll get people at the table. And so I was thinking about, the whole concept, it takes a village to raise a child. I tried to get the village leaders together. So, police chiefs, had the mayor of Cottonwood, had a few other civic leaders, and of course colleagues, other school superintendents. And Rick shared a little bit about the background of Kids at Hope and the ideology, and there was a definite consensus that yes, we want this to be part of the identity of our community. And really, it's not about changing everything, it's about looking at the things you already do and aligning them to this framework. And then you also re-examine things if you're like doing things that just don't make sense. Like sometimes it's people's behaviors. I said before, start with beliefs and then behaviors change. So if somebody is acting in a way that does not support that philosophy or that ideology, so wait a minute, we don't do that here. We're a Kids at Hope district, or we're a Kids at Hope community. And so sometimes, after it's embedded in the culture for a while, even the kids will say, wait a minute, we're a Kids at Hope school, or we're a Kids at Hope community. We don't do that here. So it's not really a program. We don't ask people to buy things or do things differently, but when they're trained in the framework and understand the key things that kids need to be successful, the chance for success is much greater. So
What are some things that kids need to be successful?
Well, there's a few real key important things. So they need to have caring adults in their lives. And so, we call them the 4 ACEs, but they really need to make sure that there's somebody who cares for them, who has high expectations. They need sometimes another caring adult, because a lot of kids who we would say, and I hate to use the term, are at risk.
Yes.
They may not have the best home life. In fact, they may not be with their parents. They may not have had such a great home life. And so at a school in particular, adults spend a lot of time with kids. And so they have the opportunity to be another caring adult. They may not be the parent or grandparent or, that figure, but, kids need somebody to believe in them.
Yes.
So that's an important piece. Another piece that's really important is what we call mental time travel. So if you think for a minute, people think in pictures, not in words. So for example, if I asked each of you to think about a dog, you're going to have a picture in your brain of a dog, probably your favorite dog, one you have some emotional attachment.
Dog.
But you're going to have different dogs.
Yes.
They're not the same. And it's not the word or the symbols DOG that comes to mind. It's a little furry critter, probably, licking you or doing whatever, your favorite dog. So, you gotta paint a picture. So it's not just words. Kids need a mental image of a future that's better than their present. This works for adults too, by the way. So we call it mental time travel, and it's, in 4 areas. So typically schools used to focus on education and career, but it's more holistic through Kids at Hope. So, what kind of spouse or parent do they want to be, family life, what kind of service they want to give to the community, what hobbies and recreations. So we call them 4 destinations, but it's more holistic. So once kids can visualize a future, and this is really powerful if you have kids who have been, incarcerated, and, some of the kids that Kathy and her team are working with, or even, at the school trying to prevent that. They need to be able to visualize something better than a difficult situation they're in now, and then the adults can help them get there. But if they don't have that mental image, you won't go anywhere, because they don't know any different. Their current reality is what it is, and we need to paint a picture of a better future.
And there's really scientific research that aligns with this, where when they start talking about their future, what they would like, it actually creates some newer pathways. Mm-hmm. And the more you have that child talk about what they want in the future, the more it becomes just a part of them.
Yes.
And we all, whether we want to admit it or not, even as adults, sometimes have a negative self-talk. Like if we get in a difficult situation, I'll use math as an example. Sometimes you hear people, well, I was never any good at math, and they, math phobia, they will put themselves down, or other situations, your inner self is probably listening, when a difficult, stressful situation, you might have this negative self-talk, even if you don't vocalize it, it's in your head. Well, there's a Kids at Hope pledge that is in schools in particular is rehearsed every day, and that's to have the repetition to replace some of that negative self-talk with some positive affirmative talk. So that's an important piece too, is repetition replacing some of the negative self-talk.
And we'll have some of the kids that come into our department, when they're there to see their probation officer. I have a little card there that they pick up, and we've substituted Kids at Hope for Teens at Hope.
Okay.
But basically what the pledge is I am a kid at hope. I am talented, smart, and capable of success. I have dreams for the future, and I will climb to reach those dreams every day. All kids are capable of success, no exceptions. And the more you get them to talk that, I mean, it's amazing how their faces light up. They can come in all grumpy, but I have them say that, and it makes them feel like, hey, you believe in me, and I believe in myself.
My daughter's 20. She's at NAU, but she unfortunately was in my school. Dad was the principal for 10 years. And so she can still recite the Kids at Hope pledge.
Wow.
And, sometimes I, have to refer back to it for her when she's, difficult times, just remind her. But it's, it just, those few words can be very powerful.
How have you been able to put the ideology into hope?
Into
your program.
Probation.
Mm-hmm.
What we have done is, actually on a state level, they have recognized the value of this ideology. So on a state level, they have Rick Miller going and speaking to all of the probation departments in the state. And luckily, Dr. Tighe had come right about that same time. So Yavapai County was kind of ahead of the curve because, we started to embrace the Kids at Hope as soon as we heard about it. And typically, what we've done is, we're in our detention facility.
Yes.
In their school, they say the Kids at Hope pledge. They're coming up with more positive things to put on the wall, like I'm a kid at hope, I'm successful, those kinds of things. We have the Kids at Hope posters in our office over here in Cottonwood, that when the kids come in, they can see that there's something different, rather than know this, know that, that it's, hey, Kids at Hope, we're treasure hunters. We are committed to find all the talent, skills, and intelligence within every child and every youth.
Yeah.
And and it has been hard because especially for probation.
Yes.
It's definitely
change.
a cultural change.
Change, yes.
And it's hard for some people that have been with the department for a long time to embrace that. But I think as we see more successes, and the state would not implement this if there was not evidence backing up the just how much this is actually going to help our kids that we work with.
It's grounded in research, and so what we've seen particularly in schools is less discipline problems, greater school attendance, greater graduation rates. So you start to see the behaviors in kids change, and the expectations of the adults are higher. So there are tangible results, and it is, as Kathy said, grounded in research. One of the things that we started here is after that conversation I mentioned with the community leaders about, we want that to be part of the identity of the community.
Okay.
Is, all right, so what are we going to do about it? We had a training a little over a year ago where about 60 people were trained. And so that was across school districts and other organizations, CPS, people who work with kids.
Okay.
We invited as many people as we could. And there was that was a 3-hour training, so a little more in depth than what we're talking about now. But got people excited, and since then it started to grow. So in January of last year, we decided, we don't want to keep paying people from Phoenix to come up here to deliver the training. We need our own trainers. So they have a train the trainer training. It was a 2-day training. We trained 27 trainers. Couple from Prescott, but most on the Verde side of the county.
You say training. What took place?
So it was 2 days of really understanding the ideology, and then practicing to deliver some of the modules. So it was pretty in depth. Really understand it and then learn how to deliver it. And the training materials are good and they're well organized, so it's somewhat easy to deliver, but you really have to understand it to be able to deliver it well.
And so different organizations will call Dr. Tighe and say, I want the people that work for us to hear about Kids at Hope.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's about a 3-hour training that they go through, and they hear all, start with the history of Kids at Hope and talk about the ideology and what they can do in their department to promote this cultural change.
So this is real.
This is real,
Mm-hmm.
and this works.
Mm-hmm.
It really does, and if you see the faces of these kids just light up. I had the opportunity, Kids at Hope has a week-long university, usually in the spring, and I have an opportunity to be a part of that. And we went to visit some schools that were total Kids at Hope schools, that everybody in the school had the belief that these children will succeed. The parents were involved, and it brought tears to my eyes every school I went to, because those kids, there was definitely something different. Yeah, every single kid had a smile on their face. Every child said, when I grow up, I am going to go to such and such university.
Oh.
And they don't set it with, you're going to have a college diploma or a
High
high school
school
diploma.
diploma.
You raise the bar. And
Oh.
that's part of what Kids at Hope is to raise the bar for these kids so that they really have something more to grab onto.
And some of these schools Kathy's talking about
Yeah.
are low income, minority, more what we would say at-risk groups of kids.
Yes.
And it's very powerful. It really does make a difference in kids' lives, and that's what it's all about.
Statistically, they were, when the principal would talk to us, they were kind of on the bottom of the academic scale, and after implementing Kids at Hope, a real Kids at Hope school, they all rose to the top. They all rose to the top.
We'll take a break.
Okay.
So we've been really excited about this. After the training for trainers, we started a steering committee, and it really is countywide. Kathy and I co-chair it. And
Okay.
we meet monthly. We have representatives from all kinds of organizations. So the schools, obviously, juvenile probation's obviously, but CPS, or I'm trying to think of the correct new name.
DCS now.
DCS, and we've even had some interfaith organizations, Big Brother, Big Sister,
Police department,
fire
recreation,
departments, Parks and Rec, and we're trying to get the whole village together and community leaders to help guide what do we want to do, what can we do here, and so typically in the past, Kids at Hope has been school-based. And so it's been the schools working somewhat in isolation. So it's a little bit of a new approach, and I'm kind of excited about it. As an example of something that is a frustration to schools is the kids who need you the most and you need to get parental involvement, they're the hardest parents to get into the building. We don't have leverage to really make them come in. Teachers want to talk to the parents. They can't reach them by phone. They won't come in for a meeting. It gets real frustrating. Well, an example of an idea that came out of this steering committee was a court diversion program. So for juvenile court diversion, they can say, well, you want to avoid incarceration and things like that, you could do a court diversion, but here are the things you need to do. And so one of the things they can add to that list is go through Kids at Hope training with your parent. And so they have the leverage for what we would consider a real needy population. So that's just one of many great ideas that this group has come up with. We were real excited. Pretty recently, on September 6th, we had Antoine Fisher come to Cottonwood. Now, if you're not familiar with Antoine, he has a movie about his life, which is Antoine Fisher, so it's in his name. And he was born in prison. His mother was incarcerated. His father was murdered 2 months before his birth. So he never knew his parents. He was in foster care most of his life and was abused. And so he had a very abusive childhood, very difficult. Some of the pieces that weren't even in the movie, Antoine was able to share. Like he was talking about when he was 17, the state said, well, they picked him up out of the foster home, dropped him off in front of a men's shelter and said, well, now you're an adult, so you can go in there if you want. So he didn't have any family, knew nobody, and had nothing, no money, whatever shirt on his back. And he overcame all these adversities. He was homeless for a while and talked about that. He joined the Navy and has become very successful. He's a screenwriter. He wrote the script for his movie and was part of the production of it and has continued to do things like that. And it was really inspirational. And having watched the movie too, putting pieces together as well as the things that weren't in the movie, is just an example of how the ideology can work. And the movie talks about the Navy psychologist, I guess it was, who really was that caring adult, and really helped him be successful. It was really powerful. Like even some of the kids I think that were there were from juvenile incarceration, and even some of the kids I talked to who were there, even adults are like, you think your life is bad or you have problems, and some of our problems all of a sudden when you hear about what he went through are really trivial, and you can only imagine what it was like. But that was a real powerful story, and it's real. I mean, this is a person who really, if you were not going to be successful, he had all the reasons.
All the reasons, yes.
But he also had a caring adult in his life.
Yes.
When he got older, that pushed him, that raised the bar for him. He had dreams of the future. He would dream about having a family. Mm-hmm. So he had these things to look forward to, just as what we are promoting with Kids at Hope, to have the dreams, to have the future, and to have caring adults that are going to help get you there.
And all of what Kathy's describing is having hope. Yeah. And that's really what it's about. And people hadn't really studied hope before Kids at Hope, and Rick Miller did a lot of research on what is hope and how do we make people hopeful. And so that's having dreams of the future, having a vision, a picture of the future, and being able to aspire to that is really what it's all about. And that's what we want to do for kids. So the steering committee is continuing to we're working on an action plan. So, a lot of the schools are involved. The Cottonwood Oak Creek Elementary School District has started doing the pledge in each of its schools, and I've been training their staff, and so it's starting to gain traction. But it's really exciting as it's more holistic. It's not just school based, and so we're kind of blazing new trails in that area. But it's really exciting.
The city's been very supportive, and Matt Force has been great at helping to fund some of the things that
Matt Force is.
Matt Force is the organization that is in Yavapai County that was first created to help stop the use of methamphetamine. And so they're very active in the community as far as supporting any kind of program that will, help our youth and deter any kind of substance abuse. But it's just been, what Rick Miller had said one time was, you have to teach hope. Hope is not something that everybody has. It's something that has to be learned, which might be, we might not think that, but for a lot of the kids, they've never been taught how to hope for something. And so by them being able to have these goals and these dreams, and then coming back to the present time and start taking the steps to achieve them, that's what gives them a hope.
And recognizing their talents too. Sometimes they've never had somebody tell them they love them, or they've never had someone say, well, look what you're good at, and identifying their talents, feeling better about themselves, developing self-esteem. This has gone actually international. There's over 30,000 adults have now been trained in Kids at Hope, and it's taking traction in Canada as well. So it's
Oh,
USA
wow.
and Canada, reaching over 500,000 kids. So it's exciting, and it's something started in Phoenix, but it's certainly becoming part of the identity of our community. We're
Wow.
really excited about it.
Can you imagine living in a community that's a Kids at Hope community where everybody believes in every single child there and is there to help them, there to give them the opportunities they need to create their dreams?
Wow.
It's powerful.
Powerful.
Yeah, and that's our vision for the future.
Yeah,
and
it is.
A lot of
It
people
is.
sharing it, so it's becoming reality. We're
Wow.
really excited about it.
You got something to be excited about.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Is there anything you'd like to add to it?
I feel like I've done a lot of talking.
Yeah,
but
well, I think, the only thing that we can add is that, we do have these trainings available. We do have people that will go into organizations or meet with groups of people and train them to be an organization for Kids at Hope.
Oh,
so
wow.
you can
Yeah.
contact Mingus Union High School District, and we'll help get it set up. Kathy's office can also help set it up. We know who the trainers are, and we'll make it happen for anyone who's
So
interested.
is there a number somebody can call?
Sure. 928-634-8901 is the main line to the high school district office.
Say it again.
928-634-8901.
Okay.
And we're also on the website. Kidsathope.org has a website, lots of information as well.
That's valuable.
And I would encourage anybody to get on their website and to really see what the research is and what they're doing across the nation. And that's the kidsathope.org.
Okay. Well, thank you very much
Thank
for
you
coming
so
on.
much.
Yes.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, this concludes another episode of Focus on Hope. I hope that you join us next time. My name is Eve Moffett, and I'll see you then.